So Sam, here we are at Serato, a business that I don't think many New Zealanders would really think could come out of New Zealand. Just to explain what it is Serato does.
We make DJ software, so our customers are people who are working DJs all around the world. This product that we make allows people to mix music using kind of conventional DJ gear, but playing music off a computer. So that's really changed the way people DJ because they're more mobile. They can take a laptop with them instead of crates and crates of records or a big stack of CDs, and they can travel around the world. And also they have a lot more choice. Basically, your iTunes library becomes your record collection, so to speak. So people can mix all different sorts of music.
And it ends up being very much about the individual now, doesn't it? I mean, DJing is an individual brand.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think DJing has really grown over the last 10 years, and particularly in America, the big superstar DJs are the kind of new rock gods. It's really gone quite crazy in the last 2 or 3 years. But we're also seeing, lots and lots of people who have an interest in music and are the kinds of people that are at a party would kind of hover around the stereo, choosing what they wanted to put on next. They're kind of getting into DJing. It's something that it's now accessible to so many more people.
And wandering around, I mean, this is like a boys' own environment. I mean, everybody would love coming to work when you get to work with all this amazing equipment and doing things that clearly people are very passionate about. So how did you get into the space originally?
Quite some time ago now, I was studying electrical engineering down at Canterbury University in Christchurch, and at the same time learning how to DJ. And I was really intrigued by the fact that you've got this big 12-inch vinyl record, and that's the thing that you interact with. That's the thing that you can manipulate, and you get your hands all over and you touch. The music's on there, but that's almost secondary. And I was learning about how you can control computerized systems through my engineering studies, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could use a vinyl record to control an MP3 playing on a computer? I didn't quite have the technical skills to actually be able to pull it off. I tried to talk all my engineering mates into helping me build it, and kind of fast forward 10 years of thinking about how the system might work, and I was living overseas, and I got a call from a friend saying, hey, I just met a guy at a barbecue, and he's doing that thing that you've been talking about in the last 10 years, and he's just down the road in Auckland. And so that was quite a surprise, and I moved back to New Zealand and teamed up with the guys that had founded the company. And
so it was like the perfect marriage, really. You absolutely found the job that you were looking for.
I do remember those early morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, getting ready for some of those initial launch dates, working around the clock to launch the product near on 10 years ago, and just thinking this is what I have been dreaming of for the last 10 years. So it was incredibly motivating.
And that's amazing, isn't it? That when we think of a business like Serato, you would think logically it would come out of the US or perhaps out of Europe, but not out of New Zealand. So how does that happen?
Well, I mean, for a long time, a lot of people didn't know that it came out of New Zealand. We're very strong in America, and most of our American customers assumed it was American, to the point where there'd be internationally touring DJs who'd come down here from America. And they'd meet the local promoters and be like, oh, you're using Serato. Do you want to go meet the guys that invented it? And the DJs would be like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, they're from New Zealand. And they had no idea. They had all assumed that we were an American company. But, it's something I believe very strongly in and I'm quite passionate about. There's no reason why a company like ours can't come out of New Zealand and can't be headquartered in New Zealand. We don't have a very big profile in New Zealand because for such a long time our focus was on the US and Europe and Asia, and that's where our market was. And because of the way we structured our business, where our software is it's the licensing deal, so it's actually supplied to a hardware company, and they actually sell the product. Even in New Zealand, you didn't buy the Serato product, you bought that American product through their distributor. So Yeah, we're not. In recent years, it's become more known. We've really pushed the New Zealand angle more, and we've done a little bit more to raise our profile here. But for a long time, it was kind of seen as an American company.
And of course, that's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Effectively, what you've done is just decided to really be passionate about something and follow that passion as far as it could take you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are lots of opportunities. It's about finding those niche markets, in our case DJing, and thinking big. I think there was never any question that we would start in New Zealand and build it up here and then maybe move into Australia. It was immediately we want to go after the best DJs in the world, and we want to go after the biggest market in the world. And I think there was a lot of confidence in the product and in the technology. We knew that we had something because we'd take it to trade shows and we'd get these amazing DJs look at it and say, this is something, this is going to change things. So we teamed up with those people and took it out there.
And when you wander around, you'd think, okay, Serato, it might be a business that has 5 or 6 people working in a small little office and a developer and a few admin staff and so forth. But it's a big operation. I mean, you've got 70 or 80 staff. You've got a whole R&D division and so forth. This is a seriously big business.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's we've grown a lot in the last few years, and it's feels really good as an employer to be able to employ people in a job that they love doing. And one of the things that I'm quite conscious of as someone who has done that kind of typical Kiwi OE, gone overseas and worked in Europe and then come back, and I've got lots of friends that didn't come back and they're still over there, is creating the kind of jobs that people would want to move back to New Zealand for and be a world leader from New Zealand. There's no reason why that can't happen. And I really think that you're seeing it more and more with some of these emerging, particularly technology companies. And I guess I talk about technology companies because that's my space. But I think that collectively we have a real opportunity to develop New Zealand as a brand for technical excellence and being a place where amazing technology-based products and services can come from.
And I would imagine that staff recruitment isn't so much of an issue. Have you got a very internationally based staff?
Staff recruitment's always an issue. It's always tough to find the right people. We operate in a kind of an unusual tech space in that we're not web developers. We do develop kind of more desktop software. So that makes it harder in some ways. There's a smaller pool of people to choose from. But on the other hand, if someone is interested in the technology we use and interested in music, it's a very, very easy hire to say, come work for us, because they're really into it. But it is quite international. But I did a little kind of snap survey on our internal Yammer network a little while ago, and between us we speak 27 languages. The definition of that was that you could order a beer and then debate with the bartender what flavor of beer they would give you. So that's 27 languages to that level. But it is quite an international.
What would be the broad background most of your staff? Is it a kind of a mix of engineering and different skill sets?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the department. But say in development, we've got a lot of musicians. I think it's not a prerequisite for working here, but it certainly helps. And we of course have plenty of people who are into DJing, but we've also got opera singers and classical pianists, and
so cover the spectrum.
Hardcore metal singers and punk rockers, all different sorts. But we are all driven by a love of music. It's really fuels a lot of the passion here.
How does your customer engagement process work in terms of developing your R&D? Obviously, you're working, as you say, very closely with DJs. So how do their needs and wants feed into the system to ultimately feed through into your R&D people?
That's an interesting question. It's evolved over time, and it's challenging because you have so many inputs now. There's so much information coming from so many places. But maybe it's interesting to talk about how it first started. When we first launched the DJ product, at least, we had a forum. We had a web forum, kind of 2004. And we built the website kind of later around the forum. It was all about that forum. We did a couple of interesting things. We did our tech support on a forum, which at the time was quite unusual. So people's problems were very much out in the open, and their solutions were out in the open. And that did a couple of things. It showed people that we weren't trying to hide anything. And at the time, tech support was mostly done by email. And if other people saw what problems people were experiencing and what the solution was, so helping one person often helps several people. And also from a kind of a customer service point of view, if we had really, really difficult customers, sometimes it was quite clear it was because they were being difficult customers, not because we were being the evil corporation. And so that has evolved, and now we do a lot on Facebook and Twitter and through all different channels. And now in recent years we've adopted a user-centered design philosophy, which basically means we design something, we develop something, and then we get people in to try it. And we get them into our studio. We got a little studio, and we don't tell them too much about what we're expecting them to do with the product. We just watch. We have webcams, and we broadcast it on our internal network. And so the developers and testers who built it can actually watch a user using the product. And so much of it is about like facial expression. It's like, okay, so here's this new thing that we've developed, and they're like, okay, fail. They didn't get it. It is not so much about what they do as how easy it is for them to do it.
Because there's a certain intuition and with the whole DJ thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think
second nature.
One of our points of difference is really the user experience, and we've got a great user experience person in here, and it's something that we really push because it has to be easy, and there are several reasons. We make a tool for people who are entertaining. They're playing at a party, or they're working at a bar or club, and their job is to make people dance. Their job is not to operate the software.
Yeah.
And so there's no time to think about what you're doing. If you have to think and stop and go, oh, how do I do this thing? You're just not ever going to do it. And the other interesting, from a kind of a nerdy technical usability point of view, the other interesting challenge we've got is half of them are drunk. And so that means that
slower reflex times.
We are designing software for drunk people because they're out partying and they're playing, and it's in a nightclub. And
which is actually a really good paradigm to think around, because if you design all your software working on the basis that people have got slower reaction times, then you're going to have to really think through that design process.
I mean, it's an interesting internal conversation that we've had. It switched from people should be able to figure this out. Let's not underestimate our customers, and we don't want to treat them like idiots. It shouldn't be that hard to work out. And it switched from that to they're busy and they're doing other things. It's not about them not being smart enough to figure it out. It's that we don't want to consume their time trying to figure out what this thing that we've made means. It needs to be just completely obvious.
The growth, of course, has been phenomenal, and also I imagine the competitive space as well too. This is a business that plenty of people want to get in on. So so how do you deal with the competitive pressures?
Well, I mean, I think historically we're not about being the first. We weren't the first into the DJ space, but our approach is to try to be the best and to really focus on the things that matter, the usability things and performance. If you're playing in front of thousands of people, the most important thing is that the music keeps playing. So we put a lot of emphasis on stability. And we had a really, really good run over the last 10 years, but it has become a lot more competitive, and a lot more companies are getting into it. Everyone wants to be a DJ. There's mass consumer brands like Casio and Philips are starting to get into the space. So it is getting more and more difficult. I think it's important to know who you are and how you fit into that space. And so we say this is what drives us, and we look at what the other companies are doing, and they're doing slightly different things, and that's cool. They can go off in that direction. This is who we are, and really that's about understanding not only who we are, but who our customer is and what's important to them.
And you're very specific about that, aren't you? I mean, you're only in the software, so you don't do the hardware.
No, we don't do the hardware, but that's mainly because our customers, our real kind of business customers, are all the hardware companies, and it's not a space that we want to be in, because our strategy is to build a platform that those hardware companies can make successful products out of.
And when you're buying the hardware, it's all preloaded with your software.
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to that kind of make it easy to use philosophy. One of the things that we did differently when we kind of got into this controller space is it used to be that you got the hardware from one company and the software from another, and then you got online and you figured out how, watch some YouTube clips to figure out how to make the two things work together. And our model was you go to the store, you buy it,
you take it home,
you
plug
take
it in.
home, you plug your laptop into it, reads your iTunes library,
and it all just works.
And you plug it into your stereo, and and literally 5 minutes later you're playing music.
Yeah, which is how the DJs like to work. Now the other little offshoot that you've got that's really interesting is you actually produce vinyl as well. Not actually in New Zealand, but it's produced out of the US. So how does vinyl is still an important part of the business?
Yeah, vinyl's really important, and what we found that there was a huge demand for it because DJs have traditionally been record collectors, and that all changed when they only needed 2 records to be able to play any song that they wanted. But they're a consumable. They wear out. They last. You might get a year or 6 months out of a pair of records with quite heavy use, but they do wear out. So we needed to be able to supply replacements. But what became really interesting was that there was this big collector movement came out of it. We saw people collecting rare records where there'd been a manufacturing blip and the color was wrong, or there'd been some kind of freak in the vinyl pressing process, which happens quite a bit. It's
it's kind of like stamp collecting.
Yeah,
the rarities,
it's a pretty old school process.
Yeah.
So you get these anomalies,
Yeah.
and then there was real demand for that. So we brought out clear ones and different new series of marbled records and different sizes and all different colors, and it's great. It's really creative. It's great. Our team loves doing it because it's a fantastic creative outlet, and it's something that people love to collect.
And from an entrepreneurship perspective, what have you learned along the way? What are some of those kind of insights about the business that you'd share?
Well, I think one of the things that we really took for granted, it seemed natural to us, but in retrospect is a really important lesson, is to really engage with your customers and listen with them. I talked before about that forum we had. One of the things that we also did that was unusual was we didn't censor the forum. We had 3 rules. It was don't pass yourself off as one of us, don't pretend to be one of us, don't sell anything, and be nice to others. And so people talked about competitive products, and they talked about how the other products were better. And at the time, our competitors were shutting down those conversations and shutting down their forums, and we just let it all happen. And we watched and we listened to them, and we were able to be pretty open and authentic with them. And I think particularly the American customers were kind of taken by surprise, in a world where they're used to customer service representatives who are like, is there anything else we can help you with today? And we were saying things like, hey, DJ so-and-so, I really like that mixtape you put up. I'm into this kind of thing. Here's my mixtape. And they're like, these are real people. And we fessed up when we made mistakes, and we were quite open with them. So, I mean, like really engaging with customers. Kind of engaging with customers sounds a bit business school, but being real with them.
Right. And authentic.
Yeah. And also The other things I think are giving a clear identity, knowing what it is that makes you different, understanding what it is that people really like about your company and your products, and playing to those strengths.
And you've obviously built a community amongst the DJs as well. Has that been another important aspect of the way the business works?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is nothing stronger than word of mouth. And what really drove our success in the early days and continues to is respected DJs calling up their friends and saying, you need to check out this Serato thing because it's good.
Right.
So artist relations is a really important part of what we do. We don't pay anyone to endorse the product. You know, in the kind of in the industry, in a lot of industries, you get, you know, your Michael Jordans or your Tiger Woods, or, you know, and you pay them big sums of money to be an ambassador. We don't actually pay any money. We help them a lot. We help them. We provide them great tech support. So if they're on the road and something goes wrong, they can call us and we'll sort it out. We help them to make money in other ways, you know, by say we might do a record collaboration with them and press up a vinyl record that they earn money from. And we're looking for ways to help them grow their business as an artist, but we don't actually pay them money.
Yeah. So you create your raving fans, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's much better to have someone that will say, you know, you should work with Serato because they'll take care of you, because the product is good, than as soon as it's like, I'm paid to do this, it becomes quite apparent.
Yeah. And finally, Sam, obviously this is business, as we said, you're very passionate about. You clearly love your job. And what does it say, do you think, about what else New Zealand could be doing in spaces that we haven't really even begun to think about?
I'm a really strong believer in this type of company as a model for future New Zealand success. I think that there are a lot of niche markets out there, and there is no reason why New Zealand companies can't get in and dominate those markets. And I think that, you know, we're a small country. We don't have a huge population, but we have highly skilled, highly educated people, a lot of smart people, creative people, you know, and kind of can-do and attitude. A lot of those right characteristics to develop a brand as a country that does really, really interesting things. And, you know, we're far away from the rest of the world, but I think in these days that matters less and less because so much is online. You know, we've seen a real change in our industry from doing things at trade shows to doing things purely online, to have the space to be able to really get your message out. And it's something that can really grow. It really scales, unlike our traditional industries. That these markets, these types of companies can really grow. Basically what we do is we get a whole bunch of smart people together in a room, and then we think up ideas in the form of software, and then we sell that out to the world. And so you can come up with new ideas and go out to a much bigger audience, and it can just, there aren't limits to how far you can take it.